2.5 seasons, the narrative has chased a single absolute goal: Rhaenyra Targaryen returning to King's Landing to reclaim the Iron Throne. Traditionally, this moment is framed as a heroic climax. The audience expects a triumphant vindication, the righteous queen returning to cheers while the usurpers flee in terror. But Season 3, Episode 2 presents a reality that is quiet, chilling, and soaked in blood. Rhaenyra captures her capital, only to walk through a trail of viscera to reach her seat. This isn't a victory lap, it's a funeral procession. The series deliberately denies the viewer any catharsis, replacing the grand celebration with a hollow silence. Military history identifies this as a Pyrrhic victory. It's a win so costly to the victor that the losses in men, family, and resources outweigh any strategic gain, effectively mirroring a defeat. The Game of Thrones functions as a trap. The staggering personal costs required to actually seize the chair are precisely what destroy the person sitting on it. On a purely tactical level, Rhaenyra's forces appear dominant. The Black faction successfully smashes the Triarchy fleet at the Battle of the Gullet, neutralizing the primary naval threat to their blockade. Yet the news of the victory arrives alongside a body. Jacaerys, Rhaenyra's eldest son and the heir to her throne, was dragged into the water and killed during the fighting. This visualization highlights the dynastic math at play. Destroying a fleet secures the current borders, but losing the primary heir wipes out future stability. Politically, the crown is more vulnerable now than before it began. Lord Corlys Velaryon realizes the hollowness of the gain. His ships are ruined and his legacy is in tatters. He knows that if this is victory, he hopes to never see another. Securing a kingdom is a meaningless exercise if the generation meant to inherit the peace has been sacrificed to achieve it. With the capital in sight, the rush of newfound power leads the commanders on both sides to make reckless, ego-driven decisions. Daemon returns to Dragonstone to find the newly recruited dragon seeds, Ulf and Hugh. Instead of securing their loyalty, he treats them with open disdain, dismissing their contributions and bullying them into submission. These men were pulled from the slums and handed weapons of mass destruction. By antagonizing them, Daemon is actively training his most vital military assets to resent his leadership. The Greens make a parallel error at Harrenhal. Finding the castle abandoned, Aemond ignores securing the stronghold, instead pivoting to a pointless slaughter. To satisfy his own ego, Aemond executes every member of House Strong. He discards honor for a brutal display of force against a garrison that had already yielded. Both factions are trading long-term stability for short-term dominance. They are winning the immediate skirmishes, but they guarantee their own armies will eventually have every reason to turn against them. The final move for King's Landing rests on a desperate gamble. Otto Hightower commits treason by opening the city gates, hoping to end the war and spare her daughter's life. Alicent expects a negotiation with an old friend, but the Rhaenyra who arrives is a hardened, grieving mother seeking vengeance. She hasn't come to liberate the city, she has come to occupy it. This shift is evident in the execution of Otto Hightower. It isn't a clean, noble display of justice. Rhaenyra takes the legendary blade, Dark Sister, and clumsily hacks at his neck until the job is done. As she finally ascends the steps to the Iron Throne, she tracks Otto's blood on the soles of her boots. The visual metaphor is clear. The path to the chair is now a permanent trail of stains. Rhaenyra successfully captured the physical chair without a siege, but the weight of her losses forced her to sacrifice her fundamental humanity to do so. The new order in King's Landing is defined by alienation. Rhaenyra sits on the throne, but she is isolated from her former allies, and her rule depends entirely on the atmosphere of fear she has created. This bleak conclusion is the core philosophy behind the Iron Throne. It is designed by George R.R. Martin not as a seat of glory, but as a test of what a person is willing to lose. The throne inherently demands the systematic sacrifice of a claimant's family, integrity, and their moral compass. This creates a recurring cycle in the history of Westeros. The journey to the throne requires such a shedding of restraint that by the time a claimant is hardened enough to physically seize the chair, they have often traded away the temperament needed to govern. Rhaenyra has finally captured the city, but her march to the throne is a solitary one through a corridor of fresh blood. She holds the crown, yet the trail she left on those steps suggests a reign defined more by the corpses it took to get there than the peace it was supposed to provide.